Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Humanity has always wrestled with the dual forces of light and shadow, but it is in the murk of shadow where evil often hides in plain sight. Tonight, let us embark on a journey not to breed paranoia, but to sharpen our senses, to arm ourselves with awareness, because sometimes the greatest danger isn't what lies in the dark, but what smiles in the daylight. Deception is perhaps the most cunning weapon in the arsenal of evil. It is the skill of misdirection, the art of illusion, the craft of presenting one thing while concealing something else entirely. But evil doesn't always announce itself with the loud, menacing signals we often expect. No, it operates more quietly, more insidiously. Deception, in its most dangerous form, is not necessarily a blatant lie, but rather a subtle manipulation of the truth. You see, the evil person doesn't need to scream or rage to draw attention to their malice. Instead, they whisper promises of something better, something brighter. They use their charm, their charisma, their intelligence to pull you in, to make you feel special, valued, important. This is how they create their facade, their mask. They present themselves as someone you can trust, someone who understands you, someone who shares your goals and dreams. They may listen with an intensity that makes you feel heard, or they may speak with such eloquence that you feel compelled to follow. But as the mask tightens, so too does the danger, because behind that facade, behind the words, there's an agenda that is not aligned with your well-being, your happiness, or your future. Evil uses the tools of deception to build this illusion. It tells you what you want to hear rather than what you need to know. It knows your fears, your desires, your weaknesses, and it plays on them. It speaks in terms of absolutes. I am your friend. I have your best interests at heart. You can trust me. These words are designed not just to comfort, but to disarm. At first, you might notice small inconsistencies. A word here that doesn't quite match the tone of the person, a promise made that seems a little too grand, an action that doesn't align with the words. But in the beginning, these things are small, they are easily overlooked. And that's the point. Evil, cloaked in deception, is rarely immediately obvious. It is not a storm that comes crashing in, but a drizzle that eventually soaks you through. Deception also works by creating false choices. It does not offer a simple decision between good and bad. No, it creates a spectrum of choices that all seem justifiable, even virtuous. Surely you can trust me to make this decision for you. After all, I know what's best. The language is carefully constructed to make you doubt your own judgment, to make you question your ability to see the truth. You might even find yourself second-guessing your own instincts because the arguments, the reasoning, seem so sound. Evil knows how to frame its narrative so perfectly that it draws you in step by step until you're locked into its web. It's not until you look closer, when you begin to question the narrative, that you start to uncover the truth. And by then, the deception may have already taken root so deeply that it's hard to extricate yourself. This is the most dangerous aspect of the evil that thrives on deception. Its ability to build trust, to weave a fabric of belief so dense that it's almost impossible to see through. The more you invest in the illusion, the harder it becomes to discern the truth. It feeds on your willingness to believe, your desire to see the best in people, and it manipulates that into a weapon against you. This is why evil in the form of deception is so effective. It doesn't need to frighten you to control you. It needs to convince you that what you are experiencing is reality, that what you are believing is truth. It is, in many ways, a seduction. It plays on your vulnerabilities, your need for connection, your desire for safety. It lures you in with the promise of something better, something more fulfilling. But it is all a facade. When the deception starts to crack, when the true intentions begin to reveal themselves, it is often too late to reverse course without great effort. The evil that works through deception is not loud, not brash. It is subtle, quiet, almost imperceptible. It knows that the most effective lies are not those that are completely fabricated, but those that are half-truths, those that distort reality just enough to make you question what you know. Deception is the art of making you doubt your own perception, and in doing so, it becomes a dangerous force. Recognizing deception requires more than just seeing through lies. It requires the courage to question your own assumptions and the willingness to challenge what seems too perfect, too smooth, or too comforting. Understanding deception, then, is not just about spotting falsehoods. It's about cultivating the awareness to recognize when something doesn't sit right, when something feels off. It's about listening not just to the words that are spoken, but to the silence in between, to the moments of hesitation, to the underlying tension that suggests all may not be as it's. Empathy is often touted as the cornerstone of human connection. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, to step into their shoes and see the world from their perspective. It is what binds us together, what creates trust and compassion. But for those who walk the path of malice, empathy is a foreign concept, a mere illusion. The absence of true empathy is one of the clearest indicators of evil lurking beneath the surface. The evil person, in their pursuit of self-interest, is incapable of feeling true empathy. They might mimic it. They may know the words to say, the gestures to make, but these are nothing more than calculated actions meant to further their agenda. They use the language of empathy to manipulate, to gain control, to mask their true intentions. They may speak of caring, of understanding, but their actions betray the absence of that very sentiment. True empathy is selfless. It requires vulnerability and a willingness to place someone else's needs above your own. Evil, however, thrives in selfishness and exploitation. It requires a heart that is closed off, a mind that sees others as tools rather than individuals. You may notice in the presence of an evil person that their actions rarely align with their words. They will express sympathy, they will offer comfort, but only when it serves them. Their empathy is transactional. It's given with the expectation of something in return, and when that return is not delivered, their mask slips. This is when the facade begins to crumble, revealing the true nature of the person. A person with no genuine empathy will not help unless there is something to gain from it. The moment their investment no longer serves them, they will turn away, indifferent to the pain of others. They may even take pleasure in it, because the suffering of others can sometimes provide them with a sense of power, a twisted form of satisfaction. A person who lacks empathy is not necessarily devoid of emotion. They may experience anger, frustration, or even sadness. However, these emotions are centered on their own desires, their own needs. They do not feel the weight of another's sorrow because they are incapable of seeing beyond their own perspective. Their worldview is one-dimensional, where everything revolves around their own comfort, their own success. They lack the capacity to truly understand the hurt or joy of others because they see other people as tools to be used, rather than individuals with their own lives and feelings. In this way, they become adept at using others as pawns, manipulating situations to their benefit without any genuine regard for the consequences. What makes the absence of empathy particularly dangerous is that it can often go unnoticed, especially when the individual in question is skilled at appearing compassionate. They know the right words, the right gestures, the right moments to show you that they care, just enough to keep you invested in the illusion. This manipulation of empathy allows them to disguise their true motives, to draw you in and gain your trust, all while their ultimate goal is to use you for their own gain. It's a strategy that requires finesse, a careful balance between appearing concerned and remaining emotionally distant. In social situations, a person with no empathy may be the one who talks endlessly about their own experiences, never stopping to ask about yours. They are the ones who shift conversations back to themselves, who monopolize the emotional space without ever truly acknowledging the needs of others. Even in moments when others express vulnerability, they may show no true understanding, instead offering hollow platitudes or shifting the conversation back to their own struggles. And they listicate somewhat everything to try to uphold their power struggle, but clearly no one else does. This is not because they are unaware, but because they are uninterested. Their inability to empathize means they cannot share in your pain or joy. They can only mirror it when it serves them. The lack of empathy is also evident in how they deal with conflict. While the person with empathy might seek resolution, understanding, or reconciliation, the evil individual will seek to dominate, control, or even destroy. They will turn your vulnerability against you, use your feelings to manipulate you further, and twist the situation to maintain their power. In the face of your pain, they may feign sympathy, but their underlying desire is not to help you heal, it is to ensure that you remain in a position where they can continue to exert control over you. Empathy is not just a feeling, it is an action. It is shown in the way you treat others, the way you listen to their needs, the way you respond to their pain. True empathy asks you to put someone else's well-being before your own, to be willing to be vulnerable and open to the experience of another. The absence of this empathy, the lack of that willingness to connect, is what allows evil to grow unchecked. It is what enables exploitation, manipulation, and the gradual erosion of trust. When you encounter someone who lacks empathy, you are encountering someone who sees the world only through the lens of their own desires. They are not interested in you as an individual. They are interested in what you can do for them, in how they can use you, in how they can feed their own needs without regard for yours. In this, they become a master of disguise, able to weave an intricate web of lies, illusions, and false compassion to keep you entangled in their plans. The absence of empathy is the foundation upon which evil builds its empire. A world where everything revolves around one person's gain and the suffering of others becomes irrelevant. The language of manipulation is subtle but powerful. It's an art that evil individuals perfect over time, weaving words into a tapestry that creates doubt, confusion, and dependence. When you encounter someone who uses manipulation, the first thing you will notice is that their words rarely align with their actions. They say one thing and do another. But it's not just about being inconsistent. It's about using language as a tool to control, to deflect, and to dominate. They twist reality, making you question your own thoughts and perceptions. One of the primary tools of manipulation is gaslighting. It's the practice of making someone feel as though their understanding of reality is flawed or even insane. Gaslighting is often done incrementally, small comments, seemingly insignificant moments that gradually begin to erode your confidence. The manipulator might say, "Are you sure you're remembering that correctly?" Or, "I never said that. You must be mistaken." Over time, these small jabs start to build a narrative where you begin to doubt your own mind. You question your memory, your feelings, your instincts. In this way, the manipulator slowly takes control of your perception of reality, leaving you dependent on their version of events. But gaslighting is just the beginning. Manipulators are skilled at deflecting responsibility. When something goes wrong, they immediately shift the blame onto someone else. "If you hadn't done this, maybe I wouldn't have acted that way," they might say. The key here is to make you feel responsible for their actions, for their moods, for their failures. They place the weight of their shortcomings on your shoulders, all the while presenting themselves as a victim. It's a tactic that leaves you feeling guilty, even when you've done nothing wrong. The manipulator wants you to internalize their emotions and actions, making you feel as though it is always your fault when things go awry. Another form of manipulation is the use of false promises. They'll tell you everything you want to hear, offering a vision of the future that seems perfect, full of potential and opportunity. "We'll make it work," they'll say. "You're the one I trust the most. Together, we can achieve everything." These promises are seductive, designed to make you believe that the manipulator has your best interests at heart. But in reality, these promises are empty. They know they won't follow through, but they use this language to keep you invested, to keep you hoping. The longer they can maintain this illusion, the more control they have over you. Their promises keep you tethered to them, waiting for something that will never come. The manipulator is also adept at using flattery to disarm you. They'll praise you for your intelligence, your charm, your ability to make things happen. But this praise is never genuine. It's not about appreciating who you are, it's about making you feel indebted to them. They want you to believe that you owe them something because they've recognized your worth. They want you to feel as though you are only valuable because of their acknowledgement. The manipulator will continually build you up only to tear you down when it suits them, playing on your need for approval and validation. Another key tactic of manipulation is isolation. They'll slowly separate you from your friends, your family, or any sources of support you have. They don't understand you like I do, they'll say, convincing you that others are not looking out for your best interests. They will foster distrust in those around you, convincing you that they are the only one who truly cares. As they isolate you, they increase their control over your life. Your reliance on them grows, and you become more dependent on their words, their approval, their validation. They turn you into their captive audience, someone who is no longer able to see the truth because they have created an echo chamber of their own making. When manipulators are confronted with their own wrongdoing, they use a technique called playing the victim. They will turn the situation around, making you feel as though you are the one in the wrong for even questioning their behavior. How could you accuse me of that? After everything I've done for you, they make you feel guilty for pointing out their manipulation, shifting the blame away from them and back onto you. The more you try to defend yourself, the more they accuse you of being unfair, unreasonable, or even ungrateful. In this way, they create a cycle of guilt and self-doubt, where you end up apologizing for things you didn't do, and they continue their manipulative behavior unchecked. Language can also be used to control your emotions. A manipulator knows how to evoke feelings of fear, insecurity, or joy, depending on what serves their purposes. They might use emotional outbursts to create fear and compliance, or they might turn on the charm and warmth when they want to win you over. Their emotional fluctuations are carefully timed to keep you off balance, unsure of how to react. You may feel as though you're walking on eggshells around them, constantly worried about their mood or their approval. This emotional volatility is a key part of their manipulation strategy because it forces you to focus on their needs and emotions, making it harder for you to think critically about the situation. The language of manipulation, at its core, is about control. It's about bending the truth, twisting your perceptions, and using your emotions as tools to get what they want. When you encounter someone who uses manipulation, you must understand that their words are not meant to build trust or foster connection. They are meant to ensnare, to confuse, and to dominate. The manipulator knows that the more they can cloud your judgment and make you question your own thoughts, the more power they have over you. The key is to recognize these patterns, these words that feel off, that seem designed to make you feel small or confused. Only then can you begin to reclaim your own sense of reality and break free from the web of manipulation. Control is at the heart of evil. It is the driving force behind manipulative behavior, the goal that evil pursues in almost every interaction. Unlike others who seek influence out of care or concern, the individual motivated by evil seeks control because it gives them power. Power over your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately your life. Control is not merely a tool for them. It is the air they breathe, the foundation on which they build their existence, and to them control is absolute. There are no negotiations, no compromises. Once they begin to exert control over you, the path toward your complete subjugation is already set in motion. The most insidious aspect of the love of control is that it often starts small. It might not be immediately noticeable. In the beginning, it could appear as if the individual is simply trying to be helpful or that they are taking charge in a situation to make things easier. They may offer solutions, suggest directions, or propose ideas that seem reasonable. You might think this person knows what they're doing, and they seem to have my best interests at heart. However, the more you rely on them, the more you start to give up your own ability to make decisions, to think for yourself, and to take action on your own. Slowly, your autonomy begins to erode, and you may not even notice it until it's too late. A person who craves control doesn't allow room for you to make choices. They might push their opinions onto you, telling you what you should do and what you should believe, as if there is only one correct path, and it is the one they have laid out. They tell you what is best, what is right, what is wrong, and they expect you to fall in line without question. When you resist, they will frame it as though you are being unreasonable or ungrateful. The idea that you might have a different perspective, that you could make a choice contrary to theirs, is seen as a threat, a challenge to their authority and their control. In relationships, this desire for control becomes particularly dangerous. Instead of seeking a partnership where both parties contribute and compromise, the person who craves control wants to dominate. They want to dictate the terms of everything, their needs come first, their opinions are always right, and their feelings are the only ones that matter. They may manipulate situations to ensure that you are constantly meeting their needs, often to the detriment of your own. Their world is one where their desires, emotions, and goals are the only ones that take precedence, and anyone who comes into their sphere must cater to these. In doing so, they subtly, and sometimes overtly, diminish your sense of self. You start to feel as if your thoughts, your choices, and your actions are always secondary to theirs. But control is not always direct or explicit. It often comes in the form of passive aggression or through the use of guilt. A person who loves control knows how to make you feel bad for asserting yourself, for standing up for your own wants or needs. I did all this for you, and this is how you repay me, they might say, twisting the narrative to make you feel responsible for their happiness, their success, or their mood. In this way, they can manipulate your emotions, making you feel indebted to them, even when they have done nothing to deserve it. It's a form of emotional blackmail, where they use your love, loyalty, or kindness against you to maintain dominance. They will also set unrealistic expectations. You might find that no matter what you do, it's never quite enough. Their standards are always changing, and it's impossible to meet their demands for long. This leaves you in a constant state of striving, of trying to meet the ever-moving target that is their expectation. As you continue to give more and more, you realize that no matter how much you do, they are always asking for more. This keeps you in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, unsure of what they will ask of you next, always walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate their next need or command. One of the hallmarks of someone driven by a need for control is their response to failure or resistance. Instead of accepting that not everything can go according to their plans, they react with anger, frustration, or even rage. They see resistance as a direct threat to their authority. The more you push back or fail to meet their expectations, the more punitive they become, reinforcing their control with intimidation or even punishment. It might not always be physical, though it certainly can be, but often it is emotional. The silent treatment, dismissive comments, or even public shaming can all serve as ways to make you feel small, insignificant, or wrong. The goal is simple: to break you down, to remind you who is in charge, and to keep you in a place where you are always seeking their approval, always fearing their wrath. This relentless desire for control can often extend beyond personal relationships and into broader areas of life. The person who thrives on control might seek to dominate at work, within social circles, or even within a family unit. They may take over decision-making processes, undermine the autonomy of others, and insist on having their hands in every situation. They create environments where everyone else is dependent on them, where the idea of making decisions without them feels unsettling or impossible. It becomes a system where they hold all the power and everyone else is left scrambling for approval. And even though they may claim that they're acting in your best interest, "I'm just trying to help," they'll say, the truth is far more sinister. What they are really doing is ensuring that you are never able to act independently. They want you to believe that you need them, that you cannot succeed without their guidance. They will remove your sense of confidence, one small step at a time, until you are utterly reliant on their judgment. And the love of control is not born from a place of care, but from a place of dominance. It's a hunger that can never truly be satisfied. No matter how much power they gain, it will never be enough, and while they may present themselves as leaders, as guides, or as protectors, their true goal is not to elevate those around them, but to keep them subjugated, to maintain their own sense of superiority and authority. Their need to control is not about love or protection, it is about power, pure and simple. The distortion of truth is perhaps one of the most insidious traits of an evil person. Truth is a pillar upon which relationships, trust, and society itself stand. When truth is twisted, manipulated, or obscured, the foundation of everything begins to crumble. An evil individual understands this at a deep level. They recognize that the manipulation of truth can lead to power, control, and the ability to shape reality itself. By distorting the truth, they craft a narrative that benefits them, one where they remain in control and others remain misled, confused, and powerless. One of the most common ways truth is distorted is through lies of omission. In this case, the evil individual doesn't necessarily fabricate outright falsehoods. Instead, they carefully leave out critical pieces of information that would alter the perspective of others. They present half-truths, selective truths, which, on their own, may seem plausible or even accurate. However, when you step back and examine the larger picture, the gaps become apparent, revealing a different story altogether. They leave out inconvenient facts, manipulate timelines, and adjust details to fit their desired outcome. By doing so, they ensure that the truth is not fully visible and their control over the situation remains intact. Lies of omission are particularly dangerous because they often fly under the radar. When information is withheld or strategically altered, the other party is left with only partial knowledge, unaware that they are being misled. The manipulator might present themselves as honest, as someone who simply forgot to mention certain details, or as someone who didn't think it was necessary. However, in reality, those omissions are deliberate acts of control. They don't want the full truth to be known because it would undermine their narrative or expose their lies. Another technique of truth distortion is gaslighting. While gaslighting is often associated with making someone doubt their perception of reality, it also involves the distortion of facts and events. The gaslighter will insist that things happen differently from how they are remembered, or deny certain facts outright. When you try to explain your version of events, they may dismiss you with statements like, "You're just overreacting," or "You must be imagining things." This repeated denial of your experiences creates a dissonance in your mind, causing you to question not just the specific event, but your entire sense of reality. Over time, the manipulator chips away at your confidence in your own memory and judgment, making it easier for them to impose their own version of the truth. The evil individual also distorts truth through projection. Projection is when someone attributes their own negative qualities, thoughts, or behaviors to others. For example, they may accuse you of being dishonest when they are the ones lying, or they may claim you are manipulative when they are the ones engaging in deception. This reversal of roles allows the manipulator to shift the focus away from their own behavior and onto you. By constantly accusing you of the very things they are doing, they create confusion and self-doubt. You begin to wonder whether you are truly the one in the wrong, even though your instincts tell you otherwise. In this way, they distort your understanding of yourself and the situation, keeping you off balance and uncertain of what is real. An evil person also uses the distortion of truth to create division. They will often sow distrust between individuals, creating a false narrative where one person is portrayed as the enemy or as being untrustworthy, all while positioning themselves as the only reliable source of information. They may spread rumors, misrepresent conversations, and twist stories to serve their own interests. This causes a breakdown in communication, making it difficult for people to come together and see things clearly. The manipulator, in turn, remains in the shadows, hidden behind the lies and confusion they have created, watching as relationships disintegrate under the weight of their falsehoods. Furthermore, the distortion of truth often involves creating a narrative that benefits the manipulator's self-payment. They may paint themselves as the victim, the hero, or the savior, even when their actions have caused harm. "I did it for you," they might say, trying to justify their actions. "I had no choice," they might claim, positioning themselves as powerless. The goal is always the same: to shift the blame and responsibility away from them and onto someone else. They twist the truth to protect themselves, to maintain their image, and to ensure that others see them as the righteous party, even when their behavior suggests otherwise. They may also use the manipulation of truth to cover up their mistakes, avoid accountability, and maintain control over their environment. When confronted with their wrongdoings, the evil individual will try to redirect the conversation, minimizing their actions or accusing others of overreacting. They may lie about the facts or obscure the details to such an extent that it becomes difficult to pin them down. Their ultimate goal is not to seek resolution or understanding, but to avoid facing the consequences of their actions. The distortion of truth is a tool for maintaining dominance. It keeps others in a state of confusion and uncertainty, unsure of what to believe, and forces them to rely on the manipulator's version of events. It creates a narrative that is tailored to the manipulator's desires and needs, and it systematically undermines any truth that does not serve their purposes. For those who seek control, distorting the truth allows them to shape reality as they see fit, leaving others to struggle with the chaos they've created. In relationships, this distortion can cause immense emotional and psychological damage. Those who are consistently exposed to lies, half-truths, and manipulations may begin to feel disconnected from their own emotions and perceptions. They may begin to question their understanding of the world, unsure of what is true and what has been fabricated. Over time, this can lead to feelings of isolation, helplessness, and self-doubt, all of which serve to reinforce the power of the manipulator. The distortion of truth keeps the evil individual in a position of power, while others are left to grapple with the ever-changing reality they've created. A lack of empathy is one of the most defining characteristics of an evil person. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, to put oneself in someone else's shoes, and to respond with kindness and compassion. It is the foundation of healthy relationships, moral decision-making, and a functioning society. Without empathy, there is no genuine connection between individuals. A person devoid of empathy sees others not as people with their own thoughts, emotions, and experiences, but as tools to be used, manipulated, or discarded when no longer needed. When an evil person interacts with others, their lack of empathy is immediately apparent. They do not care about the suffering or well-being of those around them. The pain of others is merely an inconvenience to them, something to be ignored or minimized if it doesn't serve their own needs. If they do acknowledge someone else's pain, it is often to exploit it for their own gain. They may feign concern, but their motivations are self-serving. They see emotions as a currency to be traded, not as a part of the human experience that warrants respect or care. If they can use someone's vulnerability to their advantage, they will do so without hesitation. The evil individual is also skilled at masking their lack of empathy. They may present a facade of being caring or thoughtful, offering sympathy when it suits them or when they need something in return. They can act the part of a compassionate friend, a loving partner, or a considerate leader. But this behavior is never genuine. It is simply a means to an end. They will put on the appearance of empathy to manipulate others into trusting them, to make them feel obligated or to earn their affection. But behind this mask lies a cold, calculating individual who does not feel any real connection to others. They may offer empty words of comfort, but they do not feel the weight of what they say. It is just another way to maintain control, to keep others invested in a relationship that benefits them. This lack of empathy also extends to their inability to take responsibility for their actions. A person devoid of empathy cannot truly comprehend the hurt they cause, and as such, they are unwilling to take accountability for it. When they cause harm, they may justify their actions, downplay the damage they've done, or simply deny that they were in the wrong. If they do apologize, it is often insincere and only given to keep up appearances. They do not truly understand the gravity of their actions or how they affect others. They may even blame the victim, turning the situation around to make the other person seem at fault. To them, the suffering they cause is inconsequential, a mere collateral effect of their pursuit of power or personal gain. An evil person's lack of empathy also makes them impervious to feelings of guilt or remorse. Most people, when they wrong others, feel a sense of guilt or regret. It is a natural response to having hurt someone or caused them pain. But for those devoid of empathy, guilt is foreign. They do not experience the emotional turmoil that comes with knowing they've hurt someone. They do not lose sleep over their actions, nor do they reflect on their behavior with any sense of self-awareness. Instead, they continue down their path of manipulation, exploitation, and harm, knowing full well that they can do so without consequence, at least in their own mind. This lack of empathy allows them to act with a level of ruthlessness that others may find incomprehensible. They can betray trust, break promises, and hurt those closest to them without feeling the weight of their actions. They will use others for their own benefit, discarding them when they are no longer useful. In their eyes, people are expendable. Relationships are not built on mutual respect. If a person can no longer serve their purpose, they are easily cast aside, no matter the emotional toll it takes on the other individual. The evil person's view of others is transactional, cold, and impersonal. A lack of empathy also means they are unlikely to ever learn from their mistakes. Most people, when confronted with the consequences of their actions, reflect on how they could do better next time. They feel remorse, seek redemption, and try to make amends. But an evil person is incapable of this kind of self-reflection. They do not see their behavior as problematic, and any negative consequences they face are simply the result of someone else's failure to understand them or their needs. They may deflect, avoid responsibility, or manipulate the situation to avoid being held accountable. As such, they are doomed to repeat the same harmful behaviors, perpetuating a cycle of hurt and destruction. Moreover, their lack of empathy leads them to treat others as mere pawns in their game. They do not form genuine bonds or relationships because they are incapable of emotional investment. Instead, they view people as obstacles to be overcome, resources to be exploited, or tools to be used for personal gain. Whether it is through deceit, intimidation, or coercion, the evil individual will use whatever means necessary to achieve their goals, with little to no regard for the emotional toll it takes on others. For them, the end justifies the means, no matter the cost. This lack of empathy also leads them to misunderstand or ignore the concept of boundaries. Where most people recognize the importance of respecting others' emotional and physical boundaries, the evil individual sees no such need. They invade personal space, disregard emotional needs, and manipulate situations to push their own agenda. The concept of mutual respect is alien to them, because they do not see others as worthy of respect. Instead, they see others as instruments to be controlled, manipulated, and used at their discretion. In sum, the lack of empathy that characterizes an evil person makes them a destructive force. They cannot understand or care about the impact of their actions on others. Their interactions are self-serving, driven by a desire for control and personal gain, with little to no regard for the feelings, experiences, or well-being of others. This absence of empathy allows them to manipulate, deceive, and harm without hesitation or remorse, leaving a trail of emotional devastation in their wake. The manipulation of others is a central tactic used by evil individuals to maintain control, secure their desires, and achieve their own personal objectives. To them, people are not individuals with autonomy, but tools to be shaped and directed for their own gain. They are experts in using psychological tactics to influence, deceive, and control others. Whether through charm, coercion, guilt, or deceit, the manipulation is often subtle but powerful, slowly chipping away at the will and sense of self of those around them. At first, it might seem harmless, even flattering, but over time, it reveals itself for what it truly is, a calculated strategy to weaken others and make them reliant on the manipulator. One of the most common forms of manipulation is emotional manipulation. This occurs when the manipulator uses emotions, either their own or others, to control a situation. They may play on someone's fears, insecurities, or desires to get what they want. For instance, an evil person may use affection as a means of control, giving someone just enough attention or love to make them feel valued, only to withdraw it when the other person begins to assert their independence or desires. This may look like showing affection, but it's actually control. The most common form of projection of control amongst us is jealousy. This creates a cycle of emotional dependence, where the victim feels compelled to constantly seek validation and approval from the manipulator. The manipulator thrives on this power, watching as their victim becomes more and more entangled in the emotional web they've spun. Another way manipulation manifests is through the use of guilt. The manipulator knows how to exploit feelings of responsibility, sympathy, or obligation to get what they want. They may make the other person feel as though they are in debt to them, either for something the manipulator has done or for the sacrifices the manipulator has made. A simple phrase like, "After all I've done for you, how could you say no?" It have a profound effect, making the victim feel guilty for not complying with the manipulator's demands. The manipulator exploits this guilt to bend the victim to their will, making them feel selfish or ungrateful for asserting their own needs or desires. Manipulators are also masters of playing the victim. When confronted with their wrongdoings or manipulative behavior, they may turn the tables and position themselves as the aggrieved party. They might say things like, "I didn't mean to hurt you, but you've left me with no choice." Or, "Why do you always blame me for everything?" This strategy puts the focus on their supposed suffering, deflecting attention away from their manipulative actions and making the other person feel responsible for the manipulator's emotional state. It's a tactic designed to guilt-trip, confuse, and shift blame, ensuring that the manipulator never has to own up to their behavior. In addition to emotional manipulation, evil individuals also excel at intellectual manipulation. They are skilled at using logic, persuasion, and knowledge to mislead others, subtly guiding them toward a desired conclusion while making it seem as if the victim has arrived at that conclusion on their own. Through clever reasoning, they may twist facts, present misleading information, or plant doubt in the victim's mind. They may make someone question their own beliefs or abilities, casting doubt on their judgment and making them more likely to depend on the manipulator for direction or decision-making. Over time, the victim may lose confidence in their own intelligence and start to rely on the manipulator's wisdom, which is, of course, carefully constructed to serve the manipulator's own agenda. The manipulator's need to control others is often masked by a veneer of concern. They may present themselves as caring, protective, or supportive, but their actions tell a different story. They may offer advice that seems helpful, but in reality, it is self-serving, designed to lead the victim to a place where the manipulator can retain power. This is particularly evident in situations where the manipulator frames their desires as being for the benefit of the other person. They might say things like, "I'm only telling you this because I want what's best for you," when in reality, they are only looking out for their own interests. The manipulator thrives on keeping others in a position where they believe they need the manipulator's input, guidance, or approval to make any significant decision.